Hello everyone and welcome. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the news that Rick Grimes will be returning to The Walking Dead for not one, not two, not three, no wait it is three, yes 3 movies which are going to begin filming and as of next year. So without further ado, let's begin. If you watched my last video, you know that I was a bit conflicted regarding my feelings on how Rick's final appearance on The Walking Dead came to an end. And to be honest, I've kind of feel the same about the news about this planned movie trilogy. For the record, I'm not fully against the idea like some people seem to be who are really pissed off that it's happening. However, I do have a lot of concerns and reservations, and I have seen some very good points made by you in the comments section on my last video echoing your worries as well. Now my immediate reaction when I saw this news was, why? Just why? Why are AMC doing this and why are they doing it now? Surely it would have made more sense to have movies based in the Walking Dead universe when the TV was at the heights of its powers, rather than now when its viewership is the lowest it's ever been. It kind of reminds me of the news that broke earlier this year in which Scott Gimple was talking about more Walking Dead spin-offs. I mean, this wouldn't have really been a half bad idea a couple of years ago, but it seems like a really risky move for a company to be seriously thinking about investing in more spin-off shows when the main program itself is struggling. However, now that I've had a bit more time to think about it, I believe that these films actually have the potential to be quite successful, despite The Walking Dead obviously not being as popular as it once was. Even though according to Digital Spy, Rick's departure didn't cause a huge spike in viewers, it was an improvement on the episode that came before, and there's been a lot of discussion and talk on the internet regarding Rick leaving the show since this news was broken pre-season. Similarly, the internet is now rife with speculation caused by the announcement of this film trilogy, with websites jumping on the news, as well as opportunist YouTubers jumping on the bandwagon. In my mind, this will only continue over the next year or so until the film is released, which will only pique people's interest even more. The movies are scheduled to film next year, but obviously that doesn't mean they will necessarily be released in the same year. And I think it's actually a good decision to make fans wait at least 12 months to see Rick return, as this will only build up hype and anticipation. If the films were coming out in, let's say, 2 weeks' time instead, I don't think people would really care that much. Also, I think it's a clever business decision on AMC's part to make a film about Rick Grimes, set in what I presume is going to be the camp where he's taken to in the helicopter, because it makes for a pretty easy jumping on point for new viewers, as well as those viewers who might have given up with watching the show. I don't think AMC will make it a requirement for you to watch through all 9 seasons of the show beforehand to understand what the hell is going on, because then that just limits the amount of people who will watch these films. I think the first film especially is going to be something that anyone can jump into and understand. I mean, all you really need to know is that there's zombies around and that Rick has been hurt, and that's why he ends up where the film is set. Obviously, I expect the odd reference to the main show to be thrown in for good measure, but I think for the most part the trilogy will be 3 self-contained movies which someone who hasn't even watched the show will be able to follow. Now, none of us know whether these films are going to be straight to TV, played at cinemas, or will be put on a streaming service such as Netflix. However, like I said earlier, I do think they could attract new viewers as well as the old. Those who haven't watched The Walking Dead before might see these films advertised and think, oh cool, a zombie film, I'll give that a watch. And there's also the potential that people who gave up with The Walking Dead years ago will see the adverts and think, oh cool, a movie about Rick, I'll watch that. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the majority of people who gave up with The Walking Dead didn't do so because of Rick Grimes. In fact, they probably still like him as a character, so they might be willing to watch a 2-hour movie about him that's set away from all the rest of the bullshit on the show that they couldn't stand. I also think that a lot of those who've never watched The Walking Dead will probably still be aware of Andrew Lincoln's character, and might think watching a film about him is worth a shot. Those who haven't watched The Walking Dead before might not want to commit to going through 9 seasons of TV to catch up, but they may be more inclined to sit through a feature film. And if the films are good enough, it might just convince them to start watching the show. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though at first I was a bit confused by AMC's decision to produce a trilogy of films when The Walking Dead is at its least popular, from a business standpoint, however, these movies could actually work, which in turn could increase the audience for the TV show. I don't imagine the movies will cost an awful lot more than the episodes to make anyway, and perhaps it would be better to refer to them as extended episodes, in which case there could be a huge payoff for what is a relatively minor increase in investment. So I've explained that from a business point of view, I think the decision could actually turn out to be a clever gamble by AMC, but what do I think about the prospect of the Rick Grimes trilogy? Do I actually want to watch it? Well, yes, but I do have some concerns, but let me start with the positives first. Although we obviously don't know any real plot details as of yet, I think Gimple has been quoted as saying the films will explore what happens to Rick after he's saved by Anne. Now, this organisation that Anne has been working with, as far as I'm aware, isn't based on any of the Walking Dead source material, but instead will be an original creation for TV. It's not often that The Walking Dead explores areas and characters that aren't in the comics, so I am genuinely interested to learn about who these people are. I also mentioned earlier that I think it could be a good thing that fans are having to wait at least a year to see Rick, as it will build up hype for his return, and I think I could be swept up by this as well, because by the time 2019 comes around and The Walking Dead's 9th season comes to an end, I think I'll be more than ready to watch a movie focused on Officer Friendly. I am, however, a bit worried about the films themselves. To me, one film centered on Rick seems like a good idea, 2 seems okay, but 3 just seems to be a bit excessive, and I'm hoping AMC have enough material to make a prequel feel warranted rather than just needlessly dragging one story out over 3 parts. Rick existing in these movies could also throw up potential continuity programs for the TV show. I've read a couple of articles which state that Andrew Lincoln will never be returning to the Walking Dead TV show, and one of the things I've seen brought up a couple of times in the comment section on my last video is that it's going to be very difficult for this trilogy of films to give a good explanation as to why Rick doesn't leave the camp to go to Alexandria to find his family. And well, that's actually a very good point. We know that 6 years have now passed on The Walking Dead since Rick was airlifted away, with him still nowhere to be seen, and we are just expected to believe that during this time he hasn't managed to leave wherever he is to try and find Judith and Michonne. Of course, the films could create some kind of explanation as to why Rick can't go back to Alexandria, such as Rick having a chip in his brain that explodes if he steps outside the camp. AMC, please don't actually do that. That was a joke, please. Just forget I ever said that. The way I see it is that the only reason for Rick not going back to see his family that I can think of that really makes sense is if AMC were to kill him off in the final movie, and I honestly don't think that would go down well at all. I mean, it's a bit of a cheap move to keep Rick alive in the show just to then kill him off at the end of his movie trilogy, and it would make the films appear to be more of a cash grab than they already do. So yeah, I am a bit cautious about how AMC will explain Rick's absence from the main show in these films, and maybe some of you would argue it might actually be better to not make these films and instead leave his fate on an ambiguous note. But honestly, who knows what the best option is here. I am reserving full judgment on these movies until we all know a bit more information, but I am looking forward to seeing Rick again in the future, and I think I'll be even more excited about the prospect closer to the release date. However, I just hope that AMC can do the films justice whilst also managing to provide a decent explanation as to Rick's continued absence in the main show. So that's about it for this video. Please let me know your thoughts below. Are you happy with this announcement? Are you a bit indifferent to it? Or do you think it's the worst thing since Dumpstergate? And also, do you think these films will be successful or will they flop? As always, let me know your thoughts below, and until next time, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.